According to recent information, it is rumored that a former colleague of Andrew Baldwin's named M.W., who was an operations manager for Andrew Baldwin's law firm between 2017 and 2019, leaked the crime scene images to someone he knew from his time as an Indiana National Guard. M.W. allegedly also gave information to that person regarding the 136-page memorandum, which mentioned the names linked to Odinism. The person RF who acquired the information and the crime scene images ended up committing suicide around the time the leaks were being investigated. It's been also speculated that allegedly Andrew Baldwin had accidentally sent an email with an index file with some discovery information about the Delphi case to Brandon Woodhouse, an individual who he previously represented. There's a group of people online who believe with great fervency that Richard Allen is innocent. They claim the prosecution is framing Richard Allen and that Sheriff Tony Liggett unlawfully obtained a search warrant to search Rick Allen's home. Prosecutor Nick McClelland responded to allegations from Allen's defense that the Carroll County Sheriff intentionally concealed evidence and lied about other evidence while seeking a warrant to search Allen's home. Nick McClelland wrote, "Sheriff Tony Liggett did not intentionally or recklessly omit evidence or lie about evidence in the probable cause affidavit or lie about evidence to support the search warrant." In the 136-page memorandum, in the part about the Franks motion, it claimed Tony Liggett lied and claimed Sarah Carbaugh, who allegedly saw a man muddy and bloody wearing a tan-colored coat, a lighter-colored coat, and not a blue jacket. They claim that Betsy Blair, who helped describe the person who was young guy sketch, did not see the same man as Sarah Carbaugh and saw a 20-year-old with brown, poofy hair on the bridge. The writer claims it proves Betsy Blair did not see Richard Allen on the bridge. Sarah Carbaugh, according to the Franks motion part in the memorandum, did not see a man who was muddy and bloody, just muddy according to the writer. The man who Sarah saw was in a light tan-colored jacket walking down Road 300 north towards CPS parking lot at approximately 3:57 p.m. Betsy Blair's sighting was at 2 p.m. and she saw him on the bridge 50 feet away. It didn't specifically say in the memorandum where Betsy Blair was on the bridge or in the area near the bridge, such as the trail, when she allegedly observed the man in the blue jacket on the bridge. Could it be as simple as eyewitness descriptions not being completely accurate? I have heard from a legitimate source, and I'm usually very skeptical of information given to me, and I consider this valuable information due to the person being correct about key info which was previously unknown to the general public. I heard from this source that Betsy Blair was stoned when she gave the description of who she saw when she helped with the young guy sketch on February 17, 2017. Bridge guy or the man recorded from Libby's phone could have simply taken off the top layer of clothing, which is the navy jacket. It looks in the video like Bridge guy was wearing layers of clothing, and I think Sarah saw him in the tanned layer because he took off the navy jacket. Sunlight and Sarah being in a moving vehicle may have made her think it was a lighter tone of color. According to the writer, Betsy Blair told Tony Liggett that the car she saw was not black, and she was apparently adamant of that, according to the writer of the memorandum, as they made the words "not black" bold and capitalized to add emphasis to her statement. According to the writer, Betsy Blair told Tony Liggett that the car she saw was not black, parked at the CPS parking lot at roughly 2:15 p.m. when Betsy was returning home. Betsy was apparently adamant of that, according to the writer of the memorandum, as they made the words "not black" bold and capitalized to add emphasis to her statement. She claimed she saw a car which was more angular and resembled a Mercury comet. It doesn't state what color the car she saw was in the memorandum. According to the writer, Betsy Blair said the car reminded her of a car her dad had growing up. The problem I have with this is that, according to this writer, Betsy Blair was adamant the vehicle was not black, but it alludes to her not remembering the color of the vehicle she saw. So, she was so sure that she saw an older-looking model car resembling a 1965 Mercury comet, yet she could not remember the color of the vehicle. I could see how Allen's defense could target the legitimacy of the times of where Rick Allen's vehicle was seen, and it's possible the Hoosier Harvestor footage is not very clear. If the investigators got this footage early and it was clear footage, then you could assume they'd have figured out who owned the vehicle and ran a vehicle background report and checked the VIN and then traced it back to the owner. Other witnesses described a vehicle parked on the south side of the CPS building. Terry Wilson sent in a tip which he stated he was on his way to Delphi on State Road 25 around 2:10 p.m. on February 13, 2017, and said he observed a purple PT Cruiser or SUV type vehicle parked on the south side of the old CPS building. He stated it appeared as though it was backed in as to conceal the license plate of the vehicle. In Allen's probable cause affidavit, it stated Betsy and Terry both drew diagrams of where they saw the vehicle parked, and their diagrams generally matched to the area the vehicle was parked and the manner in which it was parked. Wesley McWhirter advised he remembered seeing a smaller, dark-colored car parked at the old CPS building. He described it as possibly being a smart car. McWhirter's vehicle is seen leaving at 2:28 p.m. on the Hoosier Harvestor video. I could see how a Ford Focus 2016 could be confused with a purple PT Cruiser and with a black 2016 smart car, because the persons who saw these vehicles may not have deliberately set out to remember the car and didn't clearly take notice of it. Memory can be faulty and unreliable. Eyewitnesses can be unreliable, and the defense will scrutinize them. A sketch created by Indiana State Police Master Trooper Taylor Bryant, who was the sketch artist who created the Young Guy sketch on February 17, 2017, had created a sketch of a man with scraggly hair, a knit hat with a gaunt-looking, pockmarked face. I don't know for a fact if this sketch was for the Delphi case, but it was speculated that it could be who a woman named Teresa Liebert saw near her home. According to information from the defense memorandum, Teresa remembers that the man she observed was wearing a canvas jacket that was nondescript in color but doesn't remember a hat. So if this below sketch is Teresa's, then why is there a hat on the man? It's been speculated that child molester Chasen Rain Lovell from Delphi, Indiana, who was homeless and in his early 20s at the time of the murders, was walking around the area close to the Monon High Bridge on February 13, 2017. I don't know if the information is true, but he does bear some resemblance to the sketch on the left. Teresa Liebert supposedly saw an Hispanic-looking young dark man dressed in dark clothing near her home on the day of the murders. There was a young Hispanic man who is connected to one of the names mentioned in the case, and he is not involved in the murders in any way. Could it be that young man she saw? Quite possibly. One of the juvenile witnesses spoke to Indiana resident Douglas Rice and claimed that the man she saw resembled registered sex offender and child kidnapper Jimmy Dale Duvall after Doug showed a photo of him to her. She said the man she saw was slightly taller than her and around her height, about 5'6" and 5'7", who was in his 40s and 50s. She told Douglas Rice that a scarf was below his nose and he was wearing a short billowed hat and a hoodie. The juvenile witness also stated that she did not say the person she saw did not have blue eyes, and that was a mistake by the police. The old bridge guy sketch was originally used first because the investigators believed it was a more accurate depiction of who the witnesses saw and what the man in Libby's video looked like. It would be interesting to know if the metadata from Liberty German's video recording is accurate. I'd assume it was, but the evidence should be presented if it is. Was sat navigation using GPS looked at from Rick Allen's Ford Focus 2016? Was geofencing used? The older geofencing or newer geofencing like fog reveal? Was Rick Allen's phone or phones traced, if even possible? This type of evidence could help or harm the defense's case and vice versa for the prosecution. I don't think the search warrant will be thrown out because I think there's information of him being placed at the crime scene, and if Allen consented to the home search, which was then signed off or approved over the phone by the judge, then legally it can't really be substantially argued. There was also enough probable cause for his arrest because gun striations markings off an unspent bullet found at the crime scene were consistent with his Sig Sauer P226 gun, along with 3 witnesses seeing him. The defense are just doing their jobs, but I personally don't think Tony Liggett has done anything wrong. Investigators believe Westville Prison have video evidence that will include Allen's confessions to his wife and mother, plus behavior prior to the admission and directly after. Psychiatrists and 1 psychologist assessed Richard Allen, and in a discussion with a panel, they also discussed if he should be moved to a different facility which had a psychiatric unit. From the panel meeting, it was determined that Richard Allen did not need involuntary medication. The defense have not come out, revealed, or claimed. Rick Allen has had a prior mental health diagnosis before his arrest, and there's no information on if he ever was on any antipsychotic or antidepressants medications or both in his past. I think he was most likely experiencing acute psychiatric symptoms from his situation in the prison. Currently online, there's groups of people who tend to come to the rescue and scream innocence and corruption to an arrested party who's been charged with a serious crime such as murder in a high-profile case. There's YouTubers who believe Brian Kohberger is being framed, and there's people who believe Richard Allen is being framed. I call it Stephen Avery syndrome. I think some people tend to gravitate to conspiracy theories to fill in gaps which they can't explain. I don't think Indiana State Police have done a great job. In fact, I think they've done a poor job, and the investigation has been troubled with mistakes and wrong directions. It does seem, though, they followed through investigating all those directions prior to Richard Allen's arrest, and the investigation is currently still active, according to Superintendent Doug Carter. The prosecution have to prove the felony murder charges and that Richard Allen kidnapped the girls and was at least a participant in their murders. I hope sanity will prevail.